Hey guys, so it looks like it's going to be a little bit before we're all able to meet and have normal youth. So we're going to start something new. Lou and I are going to be doing videos and we'll be releasing them on Wednesdays. Lou's going to do a video for the disciple kids and for the adults, and I'm going to do a video for the youth. And they'll be on the same topic, so hopefully you'll be able to have some good conversations with your siblings or your parents. So today we're going to be looking at Mark 11. Um, if you don't know, that's the passage that tells the story of Palm Sunday, which this Sunday coming up is Palm Sunday. And if you remember, as we've been going over the book of Mark in youth, I skipped over Mark 11 because I knew that we would be talking about it once we get closer to Palm Sunday. So we're going to talk about it today. We're going to look at Jesus, and we're going to look at the disciples and the people who were around and following Jesus in that time. So I'm going to read it real quick and then we'll talk about it. Now when they drew near to Jerusalem, to Bethany at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the village in front of you, and immediately as you enter it, you will find a colt tied, on which no one has ever sat. Untie it and bring it. If anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing this?' say, 'The Lord has need of it, and will send it back here immediately.'" And when they went away and found a colt tied at a door, outside in the street, and they untied it, and some of those standing there said to them, "What are you doing untying the colt?" And they told them what Jesus had said, and they let them go. And they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks on it, and he sat on it. Many spread their cloaks on the road, and others spread leafy branches that they had cut from the fields. And those who went before and those who followed were shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest." And he entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. And when he had looked around at everything, as it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. One of my favorite things about Jesus and reading about him in the book of Mark is that he never quite does what the people in the story expect of him. There's lots of different examples of this, but I think what we just read was one of the best examples. Jesus is entering into Jerusalem, and he knows it's a big deal. He sends his disciples to prepare this donkey and to bring it to him. And as he's entering, the people are taking off their cloaks and placing them in front of him and placing these palm branches and yelling and celebrating and honoring him. And Jesus knows this, and he knows what they're expecting. He knows that the people in Jerusalem were most likely expecting a military leader or a king like David or Saul in the Old Testament. They were expecting someone to come and to overthrow the Roman officials that were leading them at the time because they wanted their own nation again. And Jesus knew that this was their expectation of him. And what amazes me about this story and what really stands out is that after this grand entrance, all Jesus does is to go into the temple, to look around for a little while, and then, because it's getting late, he goes back to Bethany. And there's this stark contrast between what the people of Jerusalem were expecting and what Jesus ultimately does. And as I've been thinking about this today, I wonder if that's true for me as well. If that's true for us today. Are we only responding to Jesus because of what we expect him to do? And I hope not. My hope is that we're responding to Jesus because we know who he is, and we don't just have these false expectations of what he can do for us. But I wonder if what we expect from Jesus doesn't happen, if we would react like the people of Jerusalem, who less than a week later, instead of shouting "Hosanna in the highest," were shouting "Crucify him." My hope is that if what we expect doesn't happen, that we adjust our expectations. That we would rather than pushing Jesus away, that we would draw him closer when our expectations don't happen the way that we think they should. So part of having these right expectations is to get to know who Jesus really is. And so I would ask you to do something with me, and Lou's going to be asking the adults as well, but I would ask that for the next 16 days that you would take some time to read one chapter of Mark each day. And as you're reading the chapter, to think about the question, what does this tell me about who Jesus is? And to write a word or a sentence, and to just be thinking about who Jesus is during this time of chaos and this time of the very much unexpected. And so I'd ask you to join me in that, and to send me any words or any of the phrases that you are thinking about as we go on for the next 16 days. So thank y'all for listening, and I hope that you will really consider taking some time to think about that question and reading through the book of Mark. Thank y'all. Have a good evening.